All right, here we go on this Wednesday afternoon as you get halfway through the week. Next thing you know, you have college football tomorrow and, of course, Friday, and then into the weekend, NFL week number 2. Hope you've had a really good day, but also a day, and the Big 12 Conference put this up earlier today on their Twitter feed, is the remembering. Never forget, 9/11. So, of course, the day that I remember where I was. All of us remember, if you're old enough, where you were when when you started to see what was going on in the Twin Towers. And I'll say this, I think sometimes we say a lot when things like this happen, and we hope, but it's like we still get away from it instead of remembering what we do. We love this country no matter what of the infighting. So great image from the Big 12 from earlier today on their Twitter feed.
I hope that we also start to remember September 12th, 2001 as well, because I think in my lifetime, this country has never been more together and united and passionate about who we are as Americans than we were that day. And it seems like every day since that day, we've been drifting further and further apart. And I hope that one day we can get back to a place where we're there.
I still remember where I was, like a lot of other people. Sad day. Didn't even realize that it was today, really, until I started seeing all the things on the internet about remembrances and all of that. But I remember exactly what class I was in and all the fallout from that day. And sad, but important to reflect back and just feel for the families that were affected. So many people on that day back in 2001. So it's somber, but important day to look back and reflect.
Jim Gaffigan, Paul, is he a comedian?
He is one of the best.
Yeah. Okay. He put this up. He said, I put this up every year on 9/11. It's just a part of that conversation with a passenger on one of the flights of 175 when he called his wife, Julie, and was telling, just got a little goosebumps because I remember some of the audio, the things that have been released. I'm on an airplane that has been hijacked and not looking good. I want you to know that I absolutely love you. I want you to do good, have good times. Same with my parents. I'll see you when you get here. I want you to know that I totally love you. Bye-bye, babe. Hope I will call you. And then, of course, there was another plane that crashed. And there's the one about, the one that was people in the back and called, I think it might have been 911 about what was going on. But again, remember, some of you were bringing this up even yesterday on the anniversary of a horrible, horrible time, 9/11, 2001. I remember I was on radio for like 4 days. They shut it down because they were 24/7 coverage on ABC News. We had an ABC affiliate at the time, and it was 24/7 coverage of what was going on.
Yeah, I didn't have class for a couple days. Like, I was in college. I remember my roommate woke me up, and we didn't the next day. It was funny because the next day they didn't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody went to the early classes, and then it was every professor was like, I can't, what are we doing? So I remember sitting in the first class, we all kind of had it was like a group therapy session about what we just seen and what we were going through. And then we went home, and then, we just kind of people walked out in the hall and go, don't come. Every professor got an email and said, just go home. And then, when I got home, I saw the email hey, we'll come back Monday.
Not everybody in high school football that week played. I remember doing league football for the first, it had been about 10 years, and they were playing in Corsicana. And Jeff Berry, the coach, I talked to him on Thursday when I got information about his team for the broadcast, and they decided they're going to play. And I said, are we sure we're going to do this? He goes, yeah, I don't know why. I really don't know why. It wouldn't hurt us. It's a non-district game. They played the game. And then, of course, eventually life moved on. The first pitch at Yankee Stadium and much more with President Bush and onward from there. So just putting that out there. A lot of you who watch us have served our country. We appreciate you so much for doing that, no matter when it was. Now, I want you had the highlight, Paul, of Nebraska's Tommy Hill picking off Shedeur, right? On a 5 to 8 yard return.
Mm-hmm.
I want to ask each of you this. And you know how it's been a drought. There haven't been many plays in the last 8 to 10 years as a Nebraska fan. There have been plenty for a lot of other programs where I actually, while watching the game, when he did that, I squealed. Like I literally like jumped out of my chair and squealed, gave them a 14-0 lead. You guys have experienced that a lot more, almost to the point where you get used to it. Have you ever had that moment where you remember, like literally, like you saw Taylor Swift as a teenage girl and squealed?
I would squeal if I saw her now. I don't know. But no, I'll tell you, I was, it froze up. I was going to record it and play it for you because it was only 36 seconds. But Kermit Whitfield's kick return for a touchdown in the 2013 national championship game against Auburn was, and the people who are sitting there with me can tell you, I squealed and I was jumping on the couch. Woodrow was wagging his tail and he thought we were about to go on a walk or something. I don't know, but I was fired up because until that exact moment, I was like, well, this isn't going to happen. Like this whole season's a waste and all that. And then all of a sudden it just like popped up and holy cow. Yeah. That was my moment for sure.
Craig?
Unfortunately, a lot of the games I've watched where that would have been happening, I'm sitting in a press box, so you can't really celebrate that way. So that's taken away quite a few. Like CeeDee Lamb's performance against Texas was in a press box. There's another OU Texas game was in a press box that were a couple that stand out. So no, I'm not a squealer to begin with. So I don't know that I really do that in general, but I don't know. I think the last play I can remember where I just kind of went crazy was, I know there's had to be something since then, but a lot of what I remember recently is sitting in press boxes, watching my team and not being able to do anything about it. So I don't know. I just throw something out there. Adrian Peterson running against Texas, but that was 10 years before I started working in radio. So I don't know. I can't think of something off the top of my head that's specific that has happened, but that's a play that I'll always go back to of where I just went crazy as a fan and was obviously a huge fan of his and what was starting at that moment with the rivalry with Texas and his place in it, at least. That was a good time for Oklahoma fans. And so, that's just a play that I remember going crazy for in person, but a lot of it's been work related ever since then.
Yeah, we were sitting in the section, actually was around a lot of UT parents and stuff for that game in the Cotton Bowl when Adrian Peterson popped that long, almost 50-yard run from near the goal line, their own goal line. And that was the start of that. Garrett, anything from you? You've had a nice little chunk of national title games. Anything in particular? How about like the throw? Was it against Kentucky?
That one way back?
Yeah.
That was a good one. I think the last time I really remember getting excited for a play would have been 2 years ago, I believe. Mason Taylor caught the game-winning touchdown against Alabama.
Okay.
And they were able to get that win. That was a big one for me that
right.
I remember.
We all have that moment. It's been a while, and so I had to check myself to see if I was still breathing after that because I have not experienced that much at all.
A lot of the 1999 championship run, I was at those games, and it's a bit of a blur. So I would tell you, maybe I screamed. I don't know. I know there was a lot of bro hugging because we were in the stands, but not sure about anything else.
Bro hugging that. Yeah. Maybe
it was probably maybe a little bit deeper than bro hugging because a bro hug's really quick, but a lot of two dudes embracing and jumping up and down, like the beginning of an 80s sitcom.
I think we need to stop there. All right. So Texas, as you know, on a roll, what they did last year, losing in the semifinals and off to a great start with the rout of Michigan. Chip Brown with this note earlier today. After they lost to Oklahoma State in 2022, Texas was 1-6 in true road games under Steve Sarkisian. Since that time, Quinn Ewers and the Horns have become road killers. Not road kill, but big game hunters on the road, winning 8 straight games in opponent stadiums, including Alabama and Michigan. That is how you don't just win games and you compete for conference titles, but that's also how you get yourself in the national championship picture.
Yeah, you got to win. You got to win road games. A&M hasn't won one in forever. It feels like. I'm not sure exactly how long it's been, but how you win national championships is it doesn't matter where you go and play. It's just another stadium to you. And Texas certainly made the Big House just another stadium the other day by dominating Michigan the way they did. That game was not close from the jump, and you would never thought that they were playing in one of the most intimidating stadiums in the country.
Well, that's because they had a lot of their fans there. They didn't really feel like they were playing in one of the most intimidating stadiums in the country because they had like 20,000 Longhorn fans that had showed up for that game, which not everybody's going to be able to do, and is testament to the excitement around that program right now. But yeah, I think they're on a great roll. They're winning big games. I do think it helps, and I don't want this to sound like it's taken away, but I think we can all acknowledge they've been very fortunate with the timing of at least the 2 non-conference games. Like, what was Alabama last year? Is Jalen Milroe like basically a baby out there trying to figure things out? And then you have this year where Michigan's national championship team has basically left. So again, not taking away from the wins, but that's also, I think, played into that is just also good timing, but good culture, good leadership. And it's made a perfect storm of going out and being able to win big games in your Texas. So you're not intimidated by a Michigan. You're not intimidated by an Alabama. You're on their level, if not like in probably some cases for some fans feeling like you're above them. So yeah, I just think it's a combination of really positive things. And like I said, the best phrase is probably a perfect storm for them, but I don't know who's on the schedule next year. I haven't looked that far ahead, but they have really done a good job of scheduling, and it's, been a situation where they've gotten a good amount of juice out of that squeeze. So like you didn't have to play those teams, but you did, and you got huge benefits from playing those teams as opposed to playing like UT Permian Basin or something like that.
Ohio State on the road next year.
Okay, yeah. So. Oh, they'll have a new quarterback probably. Yeah, they will.
Might have a new coach if they don't like.
No, they're really, 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 really good. They're the only non-SEC team in the top 7, so I think they're fine right now. But yeah, it goes to Michigan, and maybe we talk something differently in 2 months. But yeah, they're loading up, and I think everything's going your way right now. If you're Texas, like literally everything, like the scheduling's fun. The SEC move makes that even more fun. You're winning big non-conference games and getting to go on big trips. You're making the playoff. You've got NFL players on your roster. You don't have a question at coach or AD for the first time, consecutively in a really, really long time. So they're feasting right now for sure.
No question about it. So there's that. I thought we would share that after, because they've lost a lot of places on the road, but they've also won. I mentioned that yesterday at some of the cathedrals in college football. Speaking of the team they just beat, Michigan, Sherrone Moore had his contract completed and signed, replacing Jim Harbaugh. That now is official. And I would think that if there was any questions, and he's going to do you would hope, if you're Michigan, a really nice job. But after getting blitzkrieged at home, you would, hey, has he signed yet? You never know how that could affect recruiting when it comes to players and how they can negatively recruit. Hey, he hasn't signed his contract yet. He has signed his contract.
Well, part of it became a story because they looked so bad against Texas, and then you start thinking like, oh, are they going to try to back out of this? And then now it's not a story, but
yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting headline and very random because I don't know that we were sitting here expecting in week 3 to be talking about Sherrone Moore's finalized contract. But my thing that would be like, okay, well, you're not going to fire him after a poor performance against Texas. That's ridiculous. Nobody would want that job if you'd fire a guy 2 weeks in and never sign him to a contract. So that part of the story of like, well, that's stupid. And the other side of it is, where's he going to go? Where he's going to leave Michigan after week 2 because you're unsatisfied with your contract after you get your ass kicked? Okay, yeah, go ahead. I'm sure the NFL will go open up a job for you to get you into the building. So yeah, I mean, it's a weird timing thing, but the conclusion here was inevitable. Either side would be absolutely moronic.
I think the biggest thing was people were like, oh, could they Mel Tucker this guy? Because because that would be such a terrible look. Yeah. But like that was the thing. That's why it's the fact that Mel Tucker and I guess maybe even like Kevin Sumlin.
Who was Sherrone Moore sleeping with?
Yeah.
Who did he bring in to talk to the team and tell them how bad they all are? Oh, that was just my experience with her. But I get what you're saying, dude. But that is very much internet fantasy, like the worst case scenario. This was just a weird timing thing. But yeah, the timing kind of sucks considering what just happened last weekend.
All right, so we've seen athletes have fans put out their cell phone numbers or whatever, right? Payton Thorne, the quarterback at Auburn, says he has had people requesting money from him on Venmo after losses. Thorne says at the end of the day, you have to go back to where your foundation is in your life. And for me, that's my faith and family. Really? Like I've had it maybe twice PayPal, a random someone requesting for money that I'd never heard of. And of course, I just didn't do it and reported it. But this is a little bit much. It's kind of in a way a little it's a little giggle here, but at the same time, no, this is crazy when your fan base is doing this stuff.
Yeah, that's a bridge too far. And also, bro, you bet on Auburn. Like what did you like? What have they done the last couple years to make you think for sure? They lost to Cal a year ago. Cal's not really that different of a team than they were, and neither is Auburn, other than some exciting freshmen they have. So if you bet on Auburn and lost, buddy, that's on you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not on
Well, if you
Payton
bet on
Thorne.
anybody, even if it's the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, right?
Yeah. If you thought Payton Thorne was all going to turn into Cam Newton in a year, well, sorry about your luck. It didn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, it is funny. I mean, I think that was the word you were looking for there. It is funny. I think that it's pretty understandable. Have y'all watched Payton Thorne play?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, if I was an Auburn fan, I'd be asking for my NIL money back or my betting money back too. He's not very good. He's not very good. They're not very good as a result of it. I mean, we'll see. But they're not like a contender in the SEC by any means.
Threw 4 picks against Cal.
Yeah,
yeah.
So I mean, I kind of see where people are coming from, and it's definitely a joke. But yeah, that's funny, and I'd be pissed too if my quarterback, who I was betting on, if I was betting on a team to win and the guy throws 4 picks and I found his number, I doubt I would text him, but I'm also not an Auburn fan. So also take into account the people we're dealing with here. It's a little bit different. It just means more, more insanity and more bizarre behavior when your team loses, but that means more nonetheless. And so, yeah, this is what you get when you decide to go to Auburn after transferring, and this is what you get when you decide to go to Auburn in the gambling era of college and pro sports, which we're so firmly in now. It's crazy. And this is what you get when you throw 4 picks in the gambling era of college sports. So, yeah, I'm sure it's brutal on his end, but it's also funny, too. This is the kind of story you'd expect from college sports.
All right, at 3:40, Taylor McCark from ESPN and CBS, color analyst. At 4, John Kurtz on that K-State game coming up against Arizona. Mark Daniels, UCF, plays at TCU. He'll join us today. Also at 4:45, our Big 12 Pod 1, which is Texas Tech, TCU, Oklahoma State, and Baylor. Zach Gelb of Infinity Sports Network is at 5. And then a conversation we had with the great Grant Taff back when Baylor announced that they would play, and when they play Air Force, they would celebrate the 50th year of the Southwest Conference Championship, and Paul with his top 5. Please, if you haven't already, if you don't mind, click the like button if you like what we do. And if you haven't subscribed, that'd be great too, or pass the word along to many others. All right. Trivia. Like to do this from the blitz that I get. Who's had the most wins so far? This might be just like too easy, like a 2-foot putt, although if you get nervous, you could miss it. Who has had the most wins in the decade of 2020 through 2023?
Georgia.
Georgia by 1 over Alabama. Let's see. 2000 and UTSA, by the way, is in that group too. Georgia, Alabama, Michigan, Ohio State, Notre Dame, and then Coastal Carolina, Liberty, Oregon, UTSA. Clemson's in that mix too. 2010 to 2019. Not even close. Alabama by 7 games over Ohio State and Clemson. Oklahoma was 4th. 2000 to 2009. I'll tell you this. Texas was 2nd on this list.
LSU?
LSU is the 8th. Ashton Genty.
Boise State
led the country.
Well, that would have been
by a couple of wins.
That would have been the Jared Zabransky, Kellen Moore back-to-back eras. There,
Oklahoma was 3rd, by the way, in that decade of the 2000s. 1990s.
Nebraska or Florida State.
Yeah,
right?
no. 109 Florida State. Actually, its percentage, the most wins was Marshall. They had 114. Florida State 109, Nebraska had 108 during that decade. In the 80s, we'll go through the 70s and then stop there. In the 80s. BYU was third. Oklahoma was fourth. Miami was second. And this is a decade they did not win a national title, but they led
Nebraska.
They had 103 that decade.
So Nebraska?
Yep.
Okay.
They had 3 or 4 teams that like right on the edge of it, but they couldn't close the deal. And in the 1970s, my God, these are blue bloods from top to bottom. Texas was 9th. Penn State was 5th. Michigan was 3rd. The all-time most wins in the 1970s in college football.
Ohio State.
Ohio State was 6th. And, of course, that had a little bit of Woody Hayes on it.
Oklahoma?
Oklahoma was 1 as far as winning percentage, but Alabama had 1 more win, but they also had 3 more losses, and that was the 1970s. So just a little note and a nugget about the winningest teams from the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, 10s, and then also the current decade where we are. All right. Craig, you know, we discussed this from Cody Kellner. The SEC, these are conference notes. The SEC, the Big 12, and MAC are the only 3 conferences to face 11 Power 5 non-conference opponents during the first 2 weeks of the season. All right, so that's who they played. The SEC has 3 non-conference wins versus opponents ranked in the AP Top 25. All other conferences in the FBS have 5 wins combined. So they have 3, and everybody else has 5 combined. Non-conference games against opponents ranked in the top 25 at the time of the game. After the first 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, the SEC has played 7. The Big 10 and the Big 12 have had 3, and the ACC has had 2. 3 teams in the nation currently 0-2 versus Power 5 conference and opponents Western Michigan, Akron, and Florida State. Sorry, Paul.
Yeah.
And the SEC, last one, the SEC has faced 6 non-conference opponents ranked in the top 25. That leads all conferences. They have 2 non-conference wins against the current top 25. All other conferences in the nation have 2 top 25 wins in non-conference combined. So that's kind of flexing that muscle, even though it hadn't been the perfect start. It has still been where they are winning games that you have to win. And we'll get that from Cody at the end of each weekend. He will send that to me, and we'll pass it on to everybody if we possibly can. Paul, college football pick'em. Last week we gave that out. MC Gusto won it. Scotty B won it the first week. Do you have that up in the chat room?
I will. I will. I've already made my picks. I'm on top of this thing.
I do that right away.
Yeah,
I do that right away. Where are we as far as the combined of us on the show or those involved in 365 Sports?
So you are behind Craig and I. We are both 13-7. You are 11-9. Garrett is 9-11. Jack is also 13-7. Emory is a late. Emory's going to be a late entry, so he is going to be 9-11 as he enters.
Wait a minute. How can you give him my record?
No, I gave him Garrett's record.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, I'm 11-9. That's right.
Yeah, you're
okay.
Yeah, don't sell yourself too short.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if I was 9-11. It would not surprise me whatsoever. If you want one person, chat room, listen to me. If you listen on the app or whatever, if you want one person, the first person on the timeline, 4 tickets for the Baylor game this Saturday evening against Air Force, text line is 254-339-1122. This from the Baylor ticket office, 254-710-1000. If you want 4 tickets, the first, I got a set of 4. If you want to go to the game, first one to get in the chat, into the text line, 254-339-1122. Text me. And if you are the first person, I'll be in contact you on how I can get those tickets to you. I'm excited about that game. I don't know. I know Air Force had the loss to San Jose State. I'm excited maybe about just the atmosphere around the game with all of the military type recognition. And then, of course, just the fact that Air Force is in town. And interesting to see how Baylor will, at least for those who played in that game in 2022, how they react to it.
All right, we've got somebody, but I don't know who they are.
All right. We already got somebody on it. Okay. What have I missed from today? Anything, guys?
Oh, Julie Copeland.
Okay, Julie. Okay, I'll be in touch with Julie. I got your number. I'll be in touch with you.